Okay, we're continuing with quotes about geniuses, part 3 from the book, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. By the way, if you want to do something nice, you can go to Amazon and write a review. I don't care if the review is bad, just whatever you think, tell the truth. It's better to have a review than no reviews. Engagements, saying it sucks is better than no one even knows it exists, which is pretty much where things are at. Okay, well, part 3, High Original Genius. This is by James Anthony Freud. Not Freud, but Froude. Okay, high original genius is always ridiculed on first appearance. Most of all by those who have earned themselves the highest reputation in working in established lines. Genius only commands recognition when it has created the test, which is to appreciate it. So what that means is, the establishment, they're making money. That's their power on keeping things the way it is. So a conventional doctor making good money, having a prestigious title, they don't want anything new that's going to disrupt their prestige or their cash flow. No way. So they're going to fight it no matter how true it is. They don't care about the truth. That's rule number 1 for having good outcomes as a patient, is to realize the system does not care about you at all. Zero. None. Okay, the next one is Garry Kasparov, the great world champion chess player from Russia. He said, the ability to work hard for days on end is a talent. The ability to keep on absorbing new information after many hours of study is a talent. Yeah, and what gives people the ability to do that? Intense desire, love of the activity. Okay, so yeah, you can have a lot of people. You have 2 people that are equally matched, but one is willing to work, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. They're going to get better. Okay, now from this guy, Harold McGurty, quotes on genius. In summary, the present survey of biographical information on a sample of 20 men of genius, including John Stuart Mill, Goethe, Pascal, Coleridge, Voltaire, and others, suggests that the typical developmental pattern includes the following as important aspects. Number 1, a high degree of attention focused upon the child by the parents and other adults, expressed in intensive education measures, and usually abundant love. Number 2, isolation from other children, especially outside the family. Yeah, remember what Ayn Rand wrote in Comper Chicos, is that being around children of the same age makes a child stupid, because then all they care about is popularity instead of learning. And that she says specifically the public schools put kids from preschool onward at the same age, in same age group categories, because that makes them all stupid. It's not done by accident, it's done on purpose. Okay, next thing he says. And number 3, a rich efflorescence of fantasy as a reaction to the preceding conditions. Yeah, when a child spends a lot of time alone, in order to entertain themselves, they start reading. And then as they start reading, they start learning, and that develops their interest in new things, and then they go learn that. These homeschool people learn much faster. Like Oscar Wilde was homeschooled. He's already speaking multiple languages before he went off to college. He could read in multiple languages. That's characteristic of geniuses too, to read in multiple languages. Like Schopenhauer is a good prototype for that. Okay, Johann Lavater, he says, who can produce more has vigor. Who can produce better quality has talent. Who can produce what no other can has genius. Yeah, so genius isn't just more of the same. It's qualitatively different. There's something different about it. Okay, Eoin Colfer from the book The Time Paradox, he says, genius inspires resentment. It's a sad fact of life. And yes, that is true, because genius implies doing something intellectual, okay? And people are much more personal about their intellectual stuff than they are about physical stuff. Like I said, nobody has a problem with a great athlete. Everybody likes that. They want them on their team. If there was a fight, they'd want them on their team to fight, okay? But for a great intellect, that gets resented. Okay, let's see what's next. Shana Alexander. She says, the sad truth is that excellence makes people nervous. Yeah, they like competence, a competent worker, but they don't like super competence. Okay, Ben Franklin. Setting too good of an example is a kind of slander seldom forgiven. Bertrand Russell. Something of the hermit's temper is an essential element in many forms of excellence, since it enables men to resist the lure of popularity, to pursue important work in spite of general indifference or hostility, and to arrive at opinions which are opposed to prevalent errors. I also think this is one of the reasons why men are more likely to become geniuses than women. because men are more likely to say, go fuck yourself, okay? What I mean by that is there's tremendous peer pressure in conventional medicine. Sell drugs, sell drugs, sell drugs, sell drugs, sell drugs. Some lady with babies at home, she needs to make her money. She needs that money. There's nothing ambiguous about it. Some guy, though, he's single, doesn't have kids. He doesn't give a shit. He's going to say, take your bullshit and shove it up your ass. And you have to have a little bit of that in your personality because there's always pressure. There's always this pressure, conform, 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 do it the standard way. And to really come up with something new, you're not even just doing it a little bit better. You're doing it different. You're transforming the field. So you have to be able to say, all of these so-called experts are full of shit, and I can prove it, and here's how I'm going to prove it. Look at what I did. This is better. And you have to stand alone. You risk being ostracized, shunned, exiled, beaten up, discredited, harassed. So it has to be somebody who's okay standing alone. And most people are not. Okay? You got, $400,000 of student loans, 2 hungry babies at home. You're not going to risk losing your job by telling the establishment to fuck off. Okay? It has to come from somebody who says, I don't give a shit what the establishment says. I'm right and they're wrong and I can prove it. Okay? So it takes a little bit of a cantankerous person to be willing to transform a field. Okay? Okay, here's a good quote by Santiago Ramon y Cajal. Okay, he says, every great work is the fruit of patience, perseverance, concentration during months and years upon one specific subject. He who wants to discover a new truth must be capable of the strictest abstinence and renunciation. The ideal case would be that of a scientist who during this period of mental incubation would pay no heed to any thought that is extraneous to this problem. When I knew that I wanted to write a bunch of books, I knew that there was no way I could do it because I work full-time as a conventional doctor. I had no email for a prolonged amount of time. I had no cell phone. I had no cell phone for 11 years. I sort of knew, the only people I ever talked to was my family. And anybody can always get a hold of me through my pager. So I didn't need a cell phone because it was when I switched from being a surgeon where I was getting paged all the time every day to when I became primarily a neuroradiologist. I still do some surgery. I still do some other things, general radiology. But I do this clinical stuff, this nutrition and medical stuff. But I don't get paged all the time anymore. So I was able to not have a cell phone. And what a blessing that was. Then I could really just sit down and concentrate. Because if you want to figure something out, you got to get up early in the morning, just read papers nonstop, etc. Okay, so you have to take yourself into a narrow focus. All right, the next thing from the same quote. The ideal case would be that of a scientist who during this period of mental incubation would pay no heed to any thought that is extraneous to his problem. If he possesses this capacity to remain incessantly absorbed by one subject, he will be able to multiply his strength. That's very true. I know lots of docs are just as quick as me to learn something new that's new to both of us, but they don't got the energy or the perseverance or the desire to do anything new or discover anything. They don't care at all. Okay, big results require big ambitions. Yeah, that's why it's okay, I think, for a kid to have these great ambitions of wanting to do something great because that gives them the energy to go for it. Okay, anonymous quote. What is the one thing that could most help you to achieve your goals? Do that. Deliberate practice is pushing yourself to do stuff 20% harder than what you would usually do. That idea of deliberate practice, that's sort of like along the lines of that Eric Anders guy. He wrote that book about 10,000 hours of practice is what makes somebody an expert. It doesn't make him a genius, it just makes him an expert. Anyways, that's it for part 3 of Genius Quotes today. We got a bunch more coming up in the near future. Hope you enjoyed that.